Hey, it's Drybear. We're in a bit of a lull right now with the First Descendant, waiting for the October 10th update that has the new Deathstalker boss as well as Ultimate Freyna. So that'll be a good time to update some backlog guides, some builds, and some things that people might need for making their account whole. So one of the things on my list that I wanted to cover was some of the basic builds. People have been asking me for Ultimate Bunny builds, some farming builds, some very easy bossing builds that you would use across your whole account for very easy things that are very regular, but I don't have any build guides out or build sheets for them. So today I wanted to start with a budget farming Valby build. This is 0 catalysts required, 1 activator. It is Ultimate Bunny, Ultimate Valby, I should say. Very easy to get online and super effective for a few of the target farm locations in the game that you will refer to as, I like to call them Valby cart. Some people call it Valby 500, but it's when you go into full uptime inside your liquefaction, you spread your water on the ground everywhere, and you just AFK farm, going around in circles, farming every mob in the universe. Super effective and one of the better gold farms in the game as well. I've also updated the layout of the sheets here, and let me know what you think about this. I wanted to include, people have been asking for weapon stats in these build sheets for characters. It's gotten a lot smaller and a little bit more crowded, but I think it's a lot more information, so hopefully this is improved, and by scrunching some things gives me room to explain the build and give some options there. So for this specifically, you just need an activator. Ideally you would have Ultimate Valby for this, but this runs on normal Valby as well. You would just need to catalyze an extra slots if you wanted to, and yes, they are working on a system that allows you to transfer any progression you have on normal characters over to ultimate characters. We just don't know when that's going to be going live. So this is just out of the box. Ultimate Valby will come with a 4 catalyzed slot. It is these 4 slots right here. Those will be stock part of the base Valby, and we're going to take full advantage of those 4 slots, making sure that we have those built out and ready to go. And we're not going to add any catalyst. This actually will clear any Valby cart farm in the game, any Valby farm in the game very easily. And the synergies for weapons are going to be very straightforward with Peacemaker and Blue Beetle. This being a budget build, I didn't include a Transcendent mod because Supply Moisture works great in this build, but it is not required. And of course, Supply Moisture is a little bit harder to get, so new players may not have it. And again, since Peacemaker comes from Gluttony, you don't have to have this. There isn't any specific weapon you need. There's just some synergy with Peacemaker and Blue Beetle. Like Peacemaker is going to be your best in slot for this kind of build, but you don't need it to get online. Now, for farms specifically, you can actually use the Valby, like the budget Valby, in dungeons as well if you want to clear them out. It's actually quite good at some of the basic farms, like things in Sterile Land. If you wanted to do the anticipated ambush point for code breakers, it's very clean for this. You just have to do a full route by spreading out the water on the ground, which is super easy. But as far as main farms go, I'd say the best one is going to be the traditional Valby farm location, which is Fortress. If you go to Fortress and you go down to or up to Defense Line and then to the outpost here, this outpost is a circular area with a commander in the middle that just stays in the middle, and you can just farm AoEs as far as you go. We'll talk about that in a second. There are other options for this as well. You can certainly go to Ogna Desert down to the Mirage Stone outpost, which is the desert Valby run. It is very similar to that, very circular and very optional as well. And you can do Sterile Land on top of that as well. Up here to Classified Area, the outpost in Classified Area for Sterile Land definitely fits that bill as well. Though it's not my favorite, it still does have some efficacy. So let's look at the Defense Line outpost before this spawns here. The very basic idea of this is that you want to be activating your liquefied form and spreading your water everywhere. With the build that I've given, it is no catalyst, very easy. It gives just enough damage to one-shot the mobs, the mini mobs that are here. It gives you just enough cooldown so that you can keep this up at all times. It gives you just enough duration so that you can actually complete the donut and you have water all around the full circle. And this is what your gameplay is going to look like when you're running this in an area. Anytime there are mobs that spawn regularly in a spot, you can very easily just keep doing your liquefied state over and over and over, and you have just enough of every stat to just do this infinitely with just enough damage to kill everything as well, and the spread is there on top of it. Now, if you wanted to take this build further, you could definitely add a lot more damage, you could add more convenience, and it would be a lot easier to keep this moving and keep it working. But the build that we have here is a budget build, 0 requirements, you can just get it going, and this is one of the best gold farms in this game. This is about 5 million gold per hour, depending on how efficient you are and how effective you work for this. And the one thing you want to know about Outposts is that there's a very specific rule with Outposts that you'll have to master in order to farm Outposts with this Valby farm, and that is there's this invisible line here at the edge of an outpost, and crossing that threshold is how you trigger and re-trigger outposts. So you can see right now, the outpost has not been triggered, even though these are here and I'm dealing damage to them. It doesn't work, and that's because I haven't crossed the threshold properly. So if we go outside the threshold and then come back in, you'll notice that the outpost has started working. The way you farm these, and the reason it works so specifically here at defense line, is that when the commander spawns in the middle, the commander actually has an immunity phase so that he can't die to your outside ring. So you can just do this, run the timer to 0, and be able to clear out the mobs that are in this as well. So you're able to clear this out, have the commander spawn, and the mobs will spawn infinitely in the circle. You can see they're just spawning and dying over and over. You're collecting gold, you're collecting items, you're getting equipment, you're getting modules, you're getting Kuiper, all of that. When the timer at the top of the screen reaches near 0 at about 4 seconds or so, what you'll want to do is you'll want to step out as it ends and then step back in. It only works as the timer is ending, but what you do is that as the timer ends, when it reaches 0, you will need to step out of this, cross this threshold, come back in, it'll re-trigger, start again, and you just keep doing it infinitely. And this is the Valby cart. This is you just going around in circles, farming, collecting things. I know this is something that was discovered early on, but since we're in a lull for the game, I wanted to go back and at least document and create build sheets for things that are known for people that are, experienced in the game, but maybe not for the people that are just coming in, or maybe they just missed this and they wanted an updated build sheet for this kind of farm. But it's very effective, very easy, very cost efficient as well. So back to the sheet here, we're going to run Nimble Fingers with MP conversion. This gets you to about 62% skill cooldown, and you need this in order to have perfect uptime on your liquefied state. If you have any less than 60% cooldown reduction, you'll fall below that and you'll start having to downtime with being able to activate your third ability and create those there. On top of that, we're going to have the maximize range as well as skill expansion. This gives us enough range to get just below the maximum range on the puddle on the ground. If you get any less than this, it makes it a little more uncomfortable to hit some of the reactors, and I think range feels really good for this. But then we're also going to run skill extension and battle of stamina. This gives us some HP for survivability, as well as some range to make everything, skill expansion and skill extension gives us range and duration, so we get duration up on that. And then we're going to run level 1 of the level 0 of maximized duration to get a little bit more duration on top of that. And since we already have a Xantic slot here from the default Ultimate Valby, we're going to run skill simplification, which gives us some power to make sure we're dealing enough damage with the ticks on top of that. Now, if you wanted to go beyond the budget build, Supply Moisture is a great addition here. It's very powerful. You'll get some crit, you'll get some duration up. It is a very strong thing to add to this build. I also really like Decimator as a mod on top of that, because as you're killing mobs with debuff, you'll stack up Decimator. So putting Decimator in this build makes it a lot stronger. It's a good, easy, non-battle or attack category way to add power to the build. And then you can also add Focus on Attribute, Focus on Dimension, if you wanted to swap those in and out outside of skill simplification to make things work. But this is like the minimum base requirement to make it function. For the equipment here, I would recommend running 2-piece Annihilation, the Auxiliary Power, and the processor down at the bottom. And for this, you would run defense on those for max HP, so this is maximum there. And then you'll run a 2 out of 4 for Acrobat as well for the sensor and for the memory. For this, since this is a farming build, I would recommend getting the proper roll stats for things that you're farming. So on the Auxiliary Power, you can roll Kuiper drop rate and module drop rate. This is great for the amounts that are dropping in the Valby farm areas. You'll get more modules, which not only allows you to farm more modules, combine more modules into modules you might be missing, but also you can disenchant or dismantle those modules for more Kuiper. You also want consumable drop rate from the sensor, since it's already in there, gold drop rate from the memory, and then on the processor, one of my favorite things to run is a double farming option here. It's one of my favorite options. It's item acquisition distance and equipment drop rate. So this will help you with dropping more external components or more reactors, that sort of thing. And it also allows you to grab items from further away. This combination just makes life so much easier. So as you're going around with the Valby farm collecting things, everything is just kind of getting sucked up and vortexed into you, and you're getting more equipment on top of everything else. Then for the Acrobat memory, I would run defense on this, and then you can get MP recovery and combat on the sensor. But this combination here specifically will give you 3 max HP rolls on the implicit stat for these 3 components. And then for the auxiliary, it is an implicit defense, which is really nice. You add that to Battle of Stamina, and you should have just enough HP to survive any commander or AoEs that are going going through, which is all you really need for a farming build. Now, again, I did include weapons here. You don't need specific weapons for this. Honestly, any weapon you can mount on your reactor to keep the mount active is going to be just fine. But I think Peacemaker with a non-attribute bonus and the dimension bonus is very easy to roll for this. You could run with my normal payout build for Peacemaker, and I think Blue Beetle has synergies here as well. They both are impact rounds, but you can run these for additionally for Colossus if you want, and just build them this way. These aren't built for farming builds. They're just, they work with the build, and if you happen to have these, you can roll them, and I put the stats on here for rolling as well. The last thing is the reactor. For this specific one, you don't have to have any specific weapon. Peacemaker would probably be best in slot if you can find an impact non-attribute dimension reactor. This is the one you're looking for. And then for the stats, I would run skill duration up and non-attributes power boost. I've tried a whole bunch of combinations of putting cooldown on the reactor and removing it from your Descendant mods here. I tried running like cooldown reduction, different duration modifications, different range modifications, dimension versus non-attribute. And I think the best combination here is just skill duration up, non-attribute boost, and then we actually get our range and our cooldown properly from the mods that we have in this build. And that is it. It's very straightforward, very easy to pick up and use. It doesn't require any catalyst. You can just get your ult Valby, which is the easiest Valby to farm. It requires one activator and that's it. And you can get a bunch of gold and pretty much everything from the farm, Kuiper, equipment, reactors, and especially if you see a reactor week where there is a good reactor farm in Fortress Defense Line or in Ogna Desert Mirage Stone or Sterile Lands, you can see that those are there. You can go to the outpost and farm those reactors that week because they will drop from the outpost and you can get gold and other materials while you're doing so. Now, for some of these farms like the Ogna Desert Mirage Stone farm, you may want to lean further into the outside. The way these work is by making sure that the commander never dies and you run the timer to 0. So in some of these, you may have to like run closer to the outside just to make sure you don't spread. And you may even have to remove a range mod to make sure that you don't actually spread too far into the middle so that the commander that spawns stays in the middle and doesn't die, and you stay the whole duration in order to activate this and keep it moving. But it's not limited to just outposts. Any area where you can actually get a lot of really good coverage here, like I said, anticipated ambush point is great for this. You can just go around and go from place to place. Your water will take care of the mobs and you don't have to worry about it. So if you're someone who doesn't like using bunny and doesn't like having, like a bunny reliance, Valby is a nice secondary. Like Valby and Viesa are both effective farmers. And by the way, this is the budget farm with the minimum amount of damage needed. You can actually amp up the damage on these ticks dramatically by getting a good reactor with the right rolls and also adding more mods, or if you decide to catalyze the build, you can certainly make this even stronger than it is right now, but this is just the minimum. And that is the budget farming of Valby. If you want to see like a fully maxed out farming Valby with everything like fully built, let me know in the comments down below and I can do one of those. But right now I'm just kind of taking this time to do some spring cleaning, getting some of the old builds or established builds, or maybe even visit like Ultimate Bunny and things like that, just so I have a sheet built for people that ask for it and they're looking for something specific. We have something that they can go to and use as a resource. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.